Hello, everyone. My name is Mark from the Misplay Podcast, and you're listening to EternalJourney, everyone's favorite Eternal podcast.
Welcome to EternalJourney, the podcast.
Greetings, all my knights and punta ones out there. You are listening to EternalJourney, the podcast that talks about all things eternal with a focus on limited play. I'm your host, Jedi, and this week for episode 101, we are going to be talking about the top safe crafts for Eternal. That's right, we have a lot of new people coming into the game, as well as veterans and people that are building up their collections. And so one of the things we like to do is kind of give people an idea of what cards is worth crafting for them, and they will get multiple uses out of, instead of having that buyer's remorse and kind of crafting a legendary that they were hoping to play. It doesn't play out the way they want to, or it's very niche. But doing this, we're going to have some great people on the show, and by great people I mean one of my good limited friends that's probably going to be just as quiet as I am today, and that is Darth_Herman2. How you doing, friend?
What's up, guys? Good evening.
And sitting across from him on the internet, and the person that's actually going to be breaking down this list and telling us why these cards are so good and so safe to craft, is our good friend, and of course, through unanimous decision from the podcast, the best player on the team, or not on the team, but on the podcast, is Johnholio. How you doing, friend?
What up, Jedi? How's it going, Alex?
What's up, buddy?
Listeners, what up?
All three of you listeners out there, thank you so much. Of course, you can catch us live like we just did in an atrocious, such an interesting last game. Anywho, twitch.tv/Jedi_EJ every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. Catch us live, hang out, chat, talk. Let us know what you think, etc. And of course, if you can't, you can find the video version of this show, as well as various draft videos and constructed, especially now that we have an organized play announcement. So you're going to catch my open videos on there as well, if you don't catch the live version, at youtube.com/EternalJourney. That brings us to our final section, which is shout out. I want to give an ongoing thank you to all the people that support the show week in and week out. We really do appreciate it. Subbing to the Twitch channel, as well as just throwing additional content like pack one pick ones we'll do here in a minute our way, and things like that, and just being active in the Discord. Really do appreciate. Great group of people out there. No new people joining the Jedi Order, which I think is perfectly all right. We have a ton of people subbing all over the place. So many people are creeping up on that 2-year mark, which is kind of scary. I definitely need to come up with something to celebrate that. But the Jim Joe is at their 12 month, aka 1-year mark. So thank you so much for all the love. You guys are absolutely fantastic. All right, guys, let's do our one limited check the box for this one, which is our pack one pick one, where we crack open a pack of the latest set, or of the latest draft, I should say. And then we go over what our picks are to kind of help you get a leg up on the format. Of course, this is season 2, quote unquote, of the Empire of Glass. So now we're going to be drafting the draft packs first, with the Empire of Glass packs being packs 2 and 3. Without further ado, we will start it off with you, Alex, since John's going to be taking the wheel for most of this episode. Starting at the comments, we have Magmatic Sentinel. This is a 7/5 Sentinel for 8 fire. Summon, deal 5 damage to an enemy unit. Wanderless Kieran is a 1/2 flying Kieran for 2 Elysian, and muster +1/+1. No, thank you. Violent Gust is a fast spell for 2 primal. Deal 5 damage to a unit with flying. Not really something we want to first pick, though I don't hate having it in a deck. Huru Fledgling is a good contender here. It's a 3/3 bird for 5 justice with flying. Chain G Stick is a solid pickup and one of my personal favorites, as well as most drafters. Is a +1/+1 weapon for 2 primal, flying, spellcraft 5. Play Polymorph, which turns a unit into a 1/1 sheep. Removal, evasion, frog. It's got it.
Frog.
What's up? Oh, it's a frog. That's right. Thank you.
Sheeps
I guess I was
0/1s.
Well, yeah, you're right. You're right. Thank you for yep, you're right. You're right. It is a 1/1 frog. That's right.
Just trolling.
No, you're accurate. You gotta keep it real. There's a big difference between a 0/1 and a 1/1. Ice Bow is next. +1/+1, which seems super irrelevant next to Changey Stick. +1/+1 weapon for 3 primal. Summon. The wielder deals 1 damage to an enemy. Aerial Spotter is a 2/1 Valkyrie for 4 4 double justice. Flying. Renown. Play a 3/2 Argentport Soldier. Helpful Doorbot is a 0/3 Grenadin for 0 fire. Boom, it's free. It's free, guys. It's got to be good. And that's going to do it for our commons. Really looking at probably Changey Stick and Fledging. Going into the uncommons, we have Drifting Death is a 3/2 Valkyrie for 6 Shadow. Flying, Lifesteal, Entomb, draw a curse from your void. Not necessarily the strongest format for this card, but you know, it's still got some things going on. Shugo Standard is a depleted firepower, gain fire influence. Transmute 5, Shugo, it transforms in, so when you have 5 power or more, it will automatically transmute into Shugo Tactic, which is a +4/+2 and overwhelm fast spell. Sandbinder Sentinel is a 4/6 Sentinel for 5 double time. Summon, play a Sandbind on an enemy unit with flying. Sandbind pretty much just stops it from flying. And finally, at the rare slot, we have Antique Polisher. This is a 4/2 Explorer for 3 time. Endurance, summon, reduce the cost of a relic in your hand by 2. All right, Alex, what do you got for us?
Well, the Polisher's kind of interesting. You can really turbo out a bigger relic with that guy. I don't have too much experience on have the chance of draft that unit though. But I think it's between that, the Sandbind Sentinel, and the Changey Stick for me. Maybe the standard a little bit. I think in this case I take the 4/2, the rare.
Fair enough. Interesting. All right, let's send it over to you, John. What do you think about this pack?
Well, I just spent whatever time I had there racking my brain with this Antique Polisher because of what Alex just said. I was like, really? You know, I didn't, and you know, because in my mind, the vast majority of relics in this format are cheap and ones that, you know, you play early and sacrifice and whatever. Like they cost less than the Polisher, right? So what's the point? But then I was like, so what is there, right? I guess there's the Maul, right? That's very boosted. You're seeing a ton of Mauls. Stonescar Maul, so like that would be kind of an exciting one, right? You had that 2 Stonescar Maul deck the other day, so playing one of those like on curve after the Polisher would be pretty exciting. So I kind of get what Alex is saying then, you know, once I thought about it, but I still don't know that I want to first pick that. So I guess what I'm looking at here is either Changey Stick or Shugo Standard. And it's actually pretty close, but it's probably just Changey Stick for me.
Yeah, I think I'd be on Changey Stick as well. It's the safest pick and the highest chance to make our deck. I think all those are very solid. I also would look at Sandbinder Sentinel. I think that card is pretty powerful, and in most cases, that summon effect is equivalent to removal. I think I would have liked Antique Polisher a little bit more if I can't believe I'm drawing a blank now. The one that gives you a Griffin every turn. I keep wanting to say no. There you go. I kept wanting to say know thy enemy. Kodos sees all. Yeah, if we had that in the format, playing that on 5. Oh yes. I think it's high risk, high reward. But it's solid. But yeah, I think I would have been on Changey Stick here as well. But I like your take on that, Alex. I definitely I think it wasn't on my radar as high until I heard you talk about it, and I was like, oh yeah, all right, I'm on it. I do like Drifting Death if you're able to put it in the market and modify it right. I think especially with the grafters, the Vine Grafter, being able to make it a 4/3 flying lifesteal with regen seems very powerful. The Entomb effect, not as powerful. I think really the only curse that stands out to me right now in this format is Permafrost. I think is about the only curse that you really want to get back.
I mean, there's incidental ones like Sandbinder plays one, for example.
Yeah, fair enough.
But
so yeah, I think
Perm is the major one. But yeah, I agree. Like, but I mean, I'm not trying to first pick a market card, so
Oh yeah, for sure, 100%. Yeah, I think you're completely correct. It's just something to consider. But this pack actually has a decent high quality, to be honest with you. So, all right, well, that's gonna do it, guys. Which means we are going to go into our main topic, which, John, do you want me to read what you have in the show notes, or are you just gonna kind of take point on that? The rares and legends only since commons, uncommons, etc., etc. Do you want me to read that, or?
Yeah, either way.
Okay. So long story short, actually, I'll just read what you got here. So, safe crafts are pretty much, once again, you can craft whatever you want. We're not telling you what to craft. We're just trying to give you a guideline when you have a limited amount of shiftstone and you're trying to figure out, because there are some times that there are legendaries or rares that you don't get a chance to play with, and they might be good in a deck. Someone posts them in a Warcry, and either A, they're not your playstyle, or B, they're very niche, where they work as flavor of the week, but as soon as the meta shifts or a deck falls out of favor, then all of a sudden they're just kind of sitting there, not really getting your use. They maybe don't even cross into multiple formats, which, granted, there aren't that many multiple formats in Eternal, but, you know, maybe some peasants and some hero, right, and scion and stuff like that. So there's pseudo other formats in the form of events and casual challenges. Anyways, so rares and legendaries only, since commons and uncommons are relatively trivial to craft, and hopefully you're just earning the sweet promos for free during the release window. But I did include those in my main analysis. Also, having gone through the cards in the game for this project, a lot of must-crafts are actually campaign cards like Jack, the Awakening Cycle of units like Kira and Geralt. They're seeing a lot of play, as well as Alhed, and Six Car, I like that, which is really a topic for another time. So boom, there we go, segue into another show. Blanket recommendations: merchants, throne stables, and currently legal in expeditions. So basically a no-brainer. Yep, and we've talked about that on the show plenty of times on stream. If you were starting off, one of the best things you could do is craft the merchants, because do you talk about, well, I guess I'll just talk about it now. If you talk about it later, that's fine. But you can always do the 4 smugglers or merchants, and then the 1 legendary in the market. So you essentially have 4 copies of that card in your deck until you can craft further of them. So that's why the smugglers just kind of, or merchants most often, are the safest craft. 1, they're rare level, and 2, they can go into the most kind of decks. Smugglers kind of, they put you in a slightly tighter or smaller range because of the fact that they require 2 factions to be able to play in your deck, but they also give you access to 2 different factions in the market. So on one end, they're a little more narrow, and the other end, they're more broad. So keep that in mind as well. But I think you can't go wrong with, once again, the basic 5-color merchants.
Especially since they're illegal, like we said in Expedition right now. I think that's a big deal.
Yeah, and we're not supposed to be seeing Expedition. Well, I guess, actually, is it this month that the next set comes out?
It's not exactly clear. It's like kind of rumored, I think. And I'm not sure if that rumor is supposed to be for a full set or another mini set. I don't know.
Yeah, we got very little information on that. I feel like it's going to be a mini set, because if it was a full set, I feel like we should have started to get spoilers already, right?
Yeah, that's what I think as well, right?
So they may, so typically they don't change up well, I guess they do. There's really no set standard as far as when they rotate Expedition. I was going to say, because they've done it for a mini set and they've not done it for a mini set.
But they don't really take cards out of Expedition until a full new set releases.
Yeah, they only just add to
cards. So, but there's a chance they add smugglers to the format at some point, like, and merchants, but right, like the smugglers were legal in the last Expedition, and now it's merchants.
Fair. And then Crest. If you like mid-range or control and throne, but Silex is no longer must craft after the huge nerf. And I agree. I've definitely felt it. The just adding an additional influence to get it undepleted, or 2 additional influence to get it to get the card draw off of it, is a pretty significant. It's crazy because it doesn't sound like a lot, right, but man, do you really feel it in those 3-color decks for sure.
Yeah, it changes. It really changed which decks want Silixes, and it went from every deck to only certain decks, and really not that many. Like once you really play with and without them in some of the decks, especially like an expedition, you really realize like they don't all want them anymore at all.
I agree. All right, well, without further ado, that's going to do it for that part. So, John, do you want to go ahead and just take point here and start us off with fire and tell us like kind of the things you took into consideration when you were figuring out, you know, what is the safest craft, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah, so I mean, you did a good job describing, you know, what we're going for here, right? It's safe crafts, not necessarily our favorites, or you know, we're looking for, you know, format staples, longevity. We want it to be the safest thing you'll craft, right? Like, and like you said, at the end of the day, it's really like what you enjoy. So like if you read one of these cards we recommend and it just doesn't sound fun to you, like just don't even consider crafting it, right? Unless your only goal is to win and it's like in the deck that you know is the best deck right now, or that you've seen people play and you love the way it plays out, you know, that's like another way to say it's a safe craft, right? The only thing that makes it not completely safe is like rotating in and out of expedition and things like that. And so we've tried to factor that in. And so for each color, I guess I recommend at least one, usually like two, for each format here. And then I also kind of did like a bonus pick that like it's maybe my favorite card or whatever, you know, the one I would go for. So we're gonna start. We're just gonna go by color. So we're gonna start with fire. And so for expedition, I went with both Siege Train, which, should I break down all the cards, right? Like,
I think so. So people have an idea. Yeah, I think that's fine.
Right, I think so. So here, give me a second. I need to zoom in on my screen here where I can see this a little better.
So while you're doing that, Siege Train is the 6/4 engine at rare for 4 fire. Has Overwhelm, Reckless, and then summon, secretly choose Drifter, Piercing Shot, or Ember Fury Blade. And Tomb, play a copy of that card for each time Siege Train attacked. And then of course, shout out to Gibbon Plus. This is their custom card that they made, and I think they did an absolutely phenomenal job on this. Through and through.
Yeah, so Siege Train is amazing. It turned out to be not only playable, but like the card I'm recommending for, you know, just making the most fire decks. It's such a safe craft. It's just a rare. And yeah, it makes aggro decks, mid-range decks, sling decks. And then we've also got Pyro Knight right alongside it, which is a 1-drop in fire. And it's a 2/1, 1 and 1 fire. Overwhelm, ultimate, pay 5 to give Pyro Knight +4/+4. So it's a good early game card, a good late game card. Both of these cards will make a lot of the same decks, and they're both playable in Throne as well. So easy recommendations for these two cards for Expedition. And then I've got for Throne.
Real quick, one thing on Pyro Knight, I will say this is Pyro Knight is a great card. I think it's fantastic. One of the first early game plays that you look at in any aggressive deck. The one caveat I will just full disclaimer out there is that the relevance of it will shift back and forth based on the meta, only because of the fact that it is an X1. So if you see things like Condemn being popular, which is 1 damage at fast speed, or Blight Moth, where it's a -1/-1, based on the prevalence of those cards in the meta and similar cards to it, is where the Pyro Knight is going to be an auto include or not.
Sure.
All right, go ahead, John.
So for Throne, it was really hard to pick one, and this card is close, but I think it's easy to recommend. And so I guess I didn't mention this before, but both those other cards, I think, if I don't mention specifically, I think up to 4 is, you know, you can easily craft up to 4. Like there's staples, and you know, generally 4 of will make a deck. Some of these cards I'm going to recommend like just 1 of. So like this card, I'd say 1 of is a good idea, up to 4 of. but like, if you just want to try it out or whatever, put it in the market. A lot of the one-ofs are market cards. So this is one of those. It's Caleb's Persuader. And yeah, it's like basically one of the best fire cards for Throne. If you can see the list yourselves, gentlemen, see if you have any other recommendations there. But Caleb's Persuader is 4 and 2 fire weapon, so it goes on a unit. It's a +3/+3 stats, and when the wielder attacks, they deal 2 damage to the enemy player, and you draw a fire sigil from your deck. So it doesn't have the downside of most weapons, being that it replaces itself the turn you play it. Assuming you put it on a unit that can attack, which you basically always do. The stats are legit, and it deals face damage, so it has a lot of I don't want to say combo potential, but synergy. With having the wielder deal damage as it's attacking, it can do things like infiltrate, mastery, a lot of other mechanics in the game. So this is my recommendation for Throne for fire.
Yeah, I absolutely love this card. I jam in any fire deck I can. It does so much. It's such a good card, and it's super fun. Goes great with double damage. It helps you deal with like polymorphs and turn to seed. It's so good.
Yeah, when everyone was playing Turn to Seed, right? That's when Kale's Persuader looked like the best, because you just slap it on your best unit and attack, and then they're like Turn to Seed, and you're still just smashing them with this, seed wearing a Kale's Persuader. Exactly.
Yep. Seedling dual wielding shotguns.
So that's it for Throne there. I would also recommend the Holio card here is 2 to 4 copies of Zhou of the Endless Horde. I love this card. It's basically a treasure trove that comes with an extra card for market shenanigans, is how it almost always plays out. You almost never play it as an actual unit, but occasionally that's the thing. So it's a 8 cost, 4 fire influence, 6/6 flying dragon. But it has Fate, create and draw a treasure trove. Ultimate, when Zhou attacks, for every 2 you spend, he deals 1 damage to an enemy, and you draw a treasure trove. So yeah, that's the Holio card.
John found a way to splash this card into a draft deck, by the way. So it's very Holio card.
Yeah, I think 2 of my Scion drafts definitely played Zhou, and one of them I was like not even playing fire, just had it had enough market access to where the extra card was that good to have. Yeah, love this card. It's just a synergy card, and it's like a card that's been played in Throne decks since it came out, I think so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it has some additional dragon synergies, right?
In theory, but I think even in a dragon deck, you'd hope to be killing them before you're playing this 8-drop dragon, but it's happens.
Just like the fanciest treasure trove ever, basically.
Yes.
I mean, it was a finisher in Ambition, right?
Yeah,
mid-range
the old
Ambition.
FJS,
so.
It was. Yeah, I mean, there's been times where your plan is definitely to play the unit. I mean, I have a sling deck right now where I play my Zhous as 6/6s pretty often, actually. So, but even without those decks being playable, you still just like it as a value card in control decks generally in Throne.
Yeah.
Any other fire cards you guys want to honorable mention, or say I'm whack or anything?
No, I think that's solid. I definitely don't want to overwhelm people. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say if I'm gonna list anyone, it's gonna be you, and so you broke that down pretty good, dude.
All right, so let's move on to time. So we'll start again with Expedition. I'm gonna say Tuvon is probably the safest craft for Expedition. For a time card, it's 6 triple times, 7/7. Overwhelm, Ambush, Giant, pay 4 to give Tuvon +1/+1 and draw a card. Then increase the cost of this ability by 1. I don't know about you guys, but like there's almost no card that I feel like that I play where my opponents concede faster. Tuvon is like that grown test for constructed, baby.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a pretty safe card. And that, up to 4 of for sure, main deck. Can also be a market card if you want to try it out. And then I also would recommend Budget Tuvon or Moonstone Vanguard. It's kind of it kind of wasn't really a safe craft for a minute there, but they Direwolf nerfed, or not nerfed, they buffed it relatively recently, so it's kind of a format staple again, and it's definitely a safe craft in my opinion. It's a 5 double time 5/5 Sentinel. Excuse me. Has endurance and pledge, and when Moonstone Vanguard attacks, draw a card. When it blocks, you gain 5 life. All right, and so for Throne, want to go ahead and recommend Tokos, which is 3 double time Explorer. He's a 2/4, and it says the enemy player can't play spells directly on their units. +1 maximum power. Pay 2 and twist Tokos to increase his maximum power by 1. So it's both like a ramp guy and a hate card. That, you know, the text on that basically goes against what I would say is the best deck in Throne right now, which is Huru Kira, or some variant of that. And so yeah, enemy player can't play spells directly on their units, randomly hoses that whole deck. So they have to play cards that specifically can deal with Tokos. So it's a pretty safe craft if you like time decks at all in Throne. And then we've also got classic time card World Bearer Behemoth, which is 5 triple time 6/7 dinosaur with Overwhelm. And when World Bearer Behemoth attacks, play 1 random power card from your deck, then increase this ability by 1. And man, I mean, this is the card that for me has always been like that Tuvon, right? Like I didn't have this guy for so long in my Eternal career, and when my opponents play this, they always get to attack with it somehow immediately, like give a killer or whatever, and like it just runs away with the game so fast. So I think that's also a pretty safe craft still. It's really stood the test of time, and maybe it'll be Expedition legal at some point.
And it's really good out of the market too, right? Because the time grafter gives it charge. So
yes, that is definitely true. So anything to add for Expedition or Throne for time, you guys?
no, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like Moonguard is great against aggro. It draws you cards. Tuvon is just Tuvon. It's so good and so bad and goes in sling. Tokos can completely shut down certain strategies. And then, yeah, Behemoth just if a Behemoth attacks twice, the game's practically over at that point.
Yeah, they're basically at 10 power or whatever. Like, what are you gonna do? And then I also have my Holio card, which is 1 to 4. You know, this is often a market card, but I've seen decks that play 4 of. I say Grodov's Burden, just because I think it's a sweet card and very playable. 5 triple time Relic. Your single faction units have Exalted. Spellcraft 3, play Bury the Past, which is basically a removal for anything. And then pay 5 to draw a card. If it's a single faction unit, play it. So
that was the one I was gonna say. What about this one? But it's the Holio card.
It's the Holio card, yeah.
It also goes really well with that Antique Polisher too.
For sure, yeah. Like,
oh yeah.
Yeah, this is the kind of relic that I think of when I think of Antique Polisher, like cheating something like this out. But yeah, so let's move on to Justice, because we have a lot of factions to cover here. Because I also did the pairs, and I also looked into the multi factions as well. There's not that many down there, but there's a few. So for Expedition and Justice, I think Lord Steyre's Tower. It's the first site that I'm talking about here. It's 4 and a Justice. It has 2 durability and Valkyrie Warp. You may advance Rhoda's Agenda an additional time this turn, and Rhoda's Agenda is play Steyre's Beckoning, Curfew Enforcement, and Ironclad Oath. Steyre's Beckoning is play 2 1/1 Valkyries with flying. Curfew Enforcement is, let's see here, give a unit -1 attack. Or give all units -1 attack, all enemy units. That's what it is. Got there. And you can give it additional -1 if you exhaust and pay 1. Exhaust a Valkyrie on your side and pay 1 for each additional. And then Ironclad Oath is just a big buff spell, like +4 and give yourself a little armor. So yeah, this site has proved to be very powerful, playable in a lot of Throne decks as well. And I think that's a theme. That's what I tried to go for with all my Expedition recommendations wherever possible, was to make them also playable in Throne cards, you know. That's what makes them so safe crafts, even though they're expedition cards. And then the unit that this site pops out is also really good. This card has just been overperforming. I think it was kind of overshadowed by the big factionless site that hoses all other sites, right? So, but I think now that was nerfed, I think this one has really had its time to shine. So I think it's a very safe craft. And then also the unit Svetya Lightbringer. She's a 6 triple justice scion 5/5 with Aegis, and she has Surge. Each unit in your deck gets +1/+1, and then summon. The enemy player can't play units until the end of your next turn. So yeah, these are both very powerful justice cards. Very safe crafts, up to 4 of for sure. Anything to add on those?
Nope, those are both seeing a lot of play. I think there's a little bit more play to Styr's Tower, but man, Svetya can just Svetya.
Yep.
She do work, man.
So and then for Throne, since I already mentioned basically 2 very good cards for Throne, I had to reach a little bit further for these. So I like Hojan here as a safe craft, and especially like, we're kind of, this is geared more for newer and middle ground players, I guess, as far as opposed to entrenched players that just have all these cards anyway, and drafters like us, which we just accumulate shiftstone like it's going out of style. So I think Hojan's a perfect card for Throne here. It's a 2/1 unit. It's a paladin. It's 2 in a justice, and it has Empower. It gets +2/+2 in lifesteal this turn, and Renown. Play a justice sigil from your deck depleted. Yeah, this card's just fantastic. It's a role player. It's basically mandatory in like what I mentioned. I think is the best deck in Throne right now, which is Huru Kira. And yeah, it's just sweet. It's a good aggressive card. It's good in mid range shell because it ramps as well and has the lifesteal. Yeah, Throne staple. And then I've also got Harsh Rule here, which is also kind of tends to be better for newer players, I think. But I use it in a market occasionally still, so I think it's a pretty safe craft. And there's a lot of popular Throne decks throughout Throne's history, I guess, where it's a 4 of. So if any mid or end game kind of justice deck will be playing Harsh Rule main deck or market. So those are my Throne recommendations. Then I've also got the Johnholio card here. I said Sadidi. I'm a big fan of Sadidi, but I wouldn't call it like, mandatory or anything, even in like the popular Huru decks right now, but I still really like this card.
I like it as well. I think it's very solid. It's one of my favorite cards as well. I will say this though, 5 justice influence makes it very narrow.
Yes. Yeah, so it only goes in like practically or literally mono justice decks, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was the card that was like a while back. It was everywhere. It was like the flyer that you pay 3.
They nerfed the heck out of Sadidi, and he's still amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Was it a 7/7?
I don't think so. I think they really.
I think they nerfed the stats as well. I can't remember for sure.
And there's no way to double check either. I don't think
I'm sure we could if we really spend a minute looking, but I know for sure that they messed with the curse
onslaught. Yeah, the curse.
Yeah, but I think the stats were actually bigger as well.
Maybe. I do remember it was like the biggest thing in the air for sure.
Yeah, it was stupid good, and it's still very good. So I haven't broken the card down all the way yet. It's 5 and 5 justice to play. It's a Valkyrie, 6/6 flying and warp. Onslaught, play a curse of provocation on the enemy player, which says if on the enemy turn they don't deal damage, then you draw a card. So it's just a huge beater that can win the game, and also if it's not quite winning you the game, draws you cards. Like if they answer it and you get the onslaught, it'll help you keep you going and keep you in the game. So that's my Johnholio card.
I'm with you.
All right, let's move on to Primal. And so in this one, I've got like, I don't know if I guess this is the most recommended card for me out of every faction and every card in the whole game. I say Mavloff Huntress is the safest craft in the whole game. Like, it's in Expedition and Throne. It goes in aggressive primal decks, mid-range decks, control decks. Yeah, this card, if you're playing primal, like, and you're not playing this card, you should be asking yourself, like, very seriously, why not? So Mavloff Huntress is a 2/1 elf soldier unit, 2 and double primal to cast, has both killer and imbue, and summon plunder. So, I mean, maybe it doesn't sound like that great or what, that much, but I mean, it literally just does everything. It's good early, good late, smooths out, your early game, helps you stay in the game at the end, turning a sigil into a treasure, killing something on tempo, like trading. I mean, it's just such a good card. So yeah, huge recommendation there. And then if I go on to just Expedition, I would say, like, this was a little harder. So, because I just cheated and said Mavloff Huntress for the whole game. So I think 1 copy of Vengeful Flight I would recommend, because it's like, there's a few decks that'll main deck 1 or more, like maybe 2. But it's mostly a market card, and it's like a primal market staple, I think, in Expedition. And it's even it even makes the occasional Throne market, I think. So Vengeful Flight's a 5 triple primal spell with Revenge. Play a copy of one of your units without flying, and then give them both flying. So yeah, it's just a strong finisher type of card. But you got to be wary of your unit getting removed, or this card getting countered or something like that. Mostly, if the target gets removed, it's a big sad. So that's why it's the best in the market, to pull it out and play it at the right time, right? And then this one I was a little questionable on. I don't know, maybe you guys can back me up or shut me down here. Helio, like, there's still the occasional, like, if you're playing mostly primal, Helio's still amazing. But I mean, she was stronger at 5 cost, and like when Petition was in the format, she was a lot better as well. So I don't know that I don't know. It's like borderline safecraft at this point. But I think, like, if you like primal and you like primal's kind of style, I think it's a safecraft. So kind of a little asterisk on Helio.
Yeah, I'm not sure. It kind of goes up there with Sadidi as well, right? That you want to be in heavy primal for it. I'm not 100% sure. Like, I think it's a good card, and I like it.
Holio card, I guess, whatever.
Yeah, I'll have to look and see, because like the one thing that comes to mind to me is Feast Caller, but that guy hasn't seen play in a hot minute.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's because people aren't looking at it or it really is bad. I don't know. I feel like that card was always good, but I'm trying to think what other primal cards that are not, because all the ones that come to mind right now, you get at campaign. So
yep. Yeah, that was the hard part of this. Like I said earlier, it was like all the ones that I would go to in my head, I'm like, actually, that's a campaign card. So
yeah,
Direwolf's, I don't want to say locked a lot of the best stuff behind a paywall, because you can get it all for free just by playing the game, but you know what I mean. So let's move on to Throne. Yeah, again, Mavloff Huntress, best card. But if you like Yetis, I think there's 2 very safe crafts for Throne, and that's the site, the primal site, Thudrock's Masterwork, 3 and double primal. It's a 1 durability site. Your Yeti and Snowman have +1/+1. Thudrock's agenda: jump kick, snowball, and fend off. Jump kick is give a unit +1/+1 and flying. Snowball is deal 1 damage, and fend off is stun an enemy.
Yeah, and scout.
Right? Okay, so yeah, like, this is it's Yetis only, right? So if you're not interested in the Yeti deck or the Yeti playstyle, these are not safe crafts. But like, if you play Yetis at all, like, Yetis is not going anywhere. It's like, it's definitely what's the term I'm looking for? Not forever. It's like an evergreen.
Evergreen.
Deck. Thank you. Yes, exactly. It's like an evergreen deck, but I think you have to like the play style, right? And so that brings us to the next card, which is the Yeti Lord Wump Party Starter. It's 3 double primal 2/2 Yeti. When you play a Yeti, it deals 1 damage to the enemy player, and your other Yeti have +1/+1. I think both of these cards are basically required in the Yeti deck. They both buff your entire board and just make the whole deck kind of churn and just do its thing. So pretty safe crafts, I would say. Would you agree, gentlemen?
Yeah, I agree. If you like Yetis, those are always going to be playable. Real quick, just to interject, I guess Ice Bolt or maybe Clutch of Talons would be something that I would consider for safe crafts. I think Ice Bolt is probably one of the safest ones.
I don't know, Jedi. Like, a lot of people don't like Ice Bolt, period.
Fair.
Most decks that would run Ice Bolt can also play Equivocate and do. Most of the decks that I play that may have run Ice Bolt in the past or would now, like, I just play the Ice Bolt on the site that we're gonna recommend later. The actual card Ice Bolt makes basically 0 decks for me at this point, and I'm like a primal. You know, I love. I've played a lot of Ice Bolts, so I don't know about that one.
Thunderstrike Dragon.
I don't think that's playable in Throne at all, and it's not an expedition right now.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty much it. That I just went through all of Primal, Rare, and Legendary, and those are the only ones I would even consider. Yeah. All right, fair enough.
I did the hard work, so you don't have to.
I know. I was just entertaining
check up on all these. That's the point. So, and then like I also said one Scourge of Frostholm is also a safe craft if you like control and Throne. But not more than one. Like that's basically a market card only. And it's because it hoses other control decks, right? So if you're going big, this keeps you from, losing to any other control deck if you play Scourge first. And it's a 10 triple primal unit, dinosaur 8/8. And you play it for this line of text right here. The enemy player can't play spells, period. So not a lot of ways to answer your Scourge once it's in play, unless they really planned for it ahead of time with cards like Mavloff Huntress. So yeah, not to be a dead horse, but
see what you did there.
And then like Holio cards, I love Channel the Tempest. It's playable in Expedition right now, so it's often a market card, but some decks main up to 4 of. So it's a huge, big, powerful spell. 9 cost, 4 primal to play. Draw 3 cards, then deal damage equal to the number of cards in your hand. Yeah, it's like a Spellcrag staple, which I don't think that deck's going anywhere. And there's a lot of ways to build that. And it's legal in Expedition right now, but unfortunately I think World Pyre is pretty bad right now. It's in a bad place after the Silix nerf and with Send an Agent in the format and things like that, and just people playing Sling, like Relicate is on people's minds. So
yeah, and then if it does even start to come back, there's that impound,
yeah,
that just goes right through Aegis, so you're like, all right. So, but yeah, just send the market.
Not as good in Expedition anymore, but this was very good in Expedition. But I still think it's good for Throne. So, and then I also said Kenna, Shaman of the Scale. Like if you like the deck Kenadin, then that's a safe craft, but I don't think that deck is great. Okay, now we're getting almost away from the safe craft thing, but that's a Holio card. Anyway, I won't even read the card on that one. Let's move on to Shadow. Okay, so Expedition. I think Exploit is a safe craft. A lot of decks are playing this, and a lot of people hate this card. So that means it's probably pretty good. 2 and a Shadow. It's a spell. Choose a non-power card from an enemy player's hand. They discard it, then you plunder. So pretty straightforward card. It's just a rare. Would you guys say that's Safecraft?
Yeah, it's just a very powerful card. Like, one, you're getting a ton of information. You're knowing exactly what's in your opponent's hand, right? Minus their power. And then it has Plunder on it, so playing it early you don't get punished for. You could play it late, you get some kind of advantage out of it, right? The other thing too is that you could make sure you get rid of their removal right before you play your bomb, or you can get rid of their bomb that you can deal with. Or if they kept a sketchy hand that was like one card away from being horrible or good, you take that one card away, now a decent or a maybe hand became horrible. So yeah, there's just a lot going on with this card. I think any Shadow deck, any Feln deck, any Skycrag or Stone Scar deck will happily play this. So yeah,
I think there's really something to that in Eternal, like in particular, because of the redraw system. People keep the most greedy hands in this game, right? They need,
yeah.
I have only 2 power, but I have this one card, so I'll be fine. Like, yeah, get exploited.
Yeah, they named it correctly, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm also going to recommend 1 or 2 copies of Kroll as a safe craft. That card, I can't believe it hasn't been nerfed yet, but like, at this point, like, I kind of see why they didn't touch it. Like, maybe it's not just busted, but I think it's a safe craft, especially as a market card, as a one of. But even the decks main decking it are, know when to hold them, like tutoring for their like 2 copies, right? So Kroll is like a reanimator guy, enabler. You play him for his fate. He's an 8 cost, 3 shadow, 7/7 shaman. Actually, sorry, it's a she. When Kroll damages a player, play a unit from their void with cost less than or equal to the damage dealt, and the fate is Kroll deals damage to you equal to your remaining power. Yeah, that's just such a powerful effect, especially when you can do it on demand. When you're like, yeah, I'll just take a small hit here and reanimate my best, 2 or 3 drop. It's insanely powerful, right?
Yeah. Yes, this guy was making this lady was making waves really quickly. For sure. And even then, it's just good. I mean, granted, there's a risk. I've definitely seen plenty of people kill themselves drawing Kroll, so there's that. But
yeah, it's really sketchy main deck. I love Kroll in the market. But some decks, it's just, as sketchy as it is, it's like just too good to resist, right? You're like willing to just die randomly a handful of times to just be doing things this powerful.
So, question, just for the sake of argument, why is Kroll a more safe craft than Big Vara? The Scion Vara.
It's not more of a safe craft?
Never mind. You got her. Yep. Never mind. Yep.
We're talking about Expedition right now. And Vara is not Expedition legal. Unfortunately. So, yeah, equally safe. We'll get to Vara here in a moment. I also think the card Reappropriator is really good in Expedition right now, so I'm going to put that on my safe crafts for Shadow as well. It's 3 double Shadow. It's a 3/1 flying regen Valkyrie. Summon, steal an enemy relic, while Reappropriator has attack equal to or greater than the relic's cost. You guys agree or disagree on that one?
I think it's strong. I think it shifts with the meta. Okay. But I think right now it's a really good position. It steals Waystones, it steals Waystone Gates, it steals Amber Locks, it steals Volk Hearts as well as Slings. Yeah, it's
right.
It's got some things going for it.
Very good in the meta right now. So for Throne, I had to dig a little deeper. So my first one here is like an unassuming 2-drop. It's a Minotaur Soldier, 2 and a Shadow, 2/3. Blackhall War Leader is the name of the card. When Blackhall War Leader hits the enemy player, increase her Inspire by +1/+1, and she gets +1/+1. Inspire units you draw get +0/+0. Like, I'm not a Stone Scar expert, but like, I still think this is a safe craft. Although I don't see this like make everyone's Stone Scar deck. You have anything to say on this one, Jedi?
I like it. I like putting it in whenever I can. It upgrades your 2 drops and 3. It makes every card in your deck better, even if it only hits once. Plus, if it hits one time, then it's already itself out of Hailstorm range. I like this card. I mean, there's a ton of removal right now in the format that gets rid of it, but it's a 2-drop. What do you expect, right? A lot of things are going to be able to kill your 2-drops. I like it. I like this card a lot.
Glad you don't think I'm whack on that one. I mean, and basically all the other ones I'd recommend are campaign cards. So, but like you mentioned earlier, I think Vara Fate Touched is as safe of a big finisher type. It's another 8-drop, right? So you wouldn't necessarily think it's a safe craft, but this is like a format staple, right, for a long time. If you like reanimator strategies at all, you would be happy playing Vara. And she was actually legal. Wasn't she legal in Expedition a few expeditions ago? So I mean, it's not like off limits, for Expedition, but not currently legal. And so Vara Fate Touched is 8 Shadow 6/6 Scion unit with Deadly. When you play a Shadow unit, including Vara, play an additional Shadow unit from your Void and give it Void Bound. So I mean, if you've played Throne Ladder and your opponent just played a unit and then you looked away for a second and you looked back and suddenly their whole board was full of units, it was probably this one. It's a very powerful effect, and it has a lot of support in Throne. So, did I miss any for Throne, you think, guys?
Nope. Solid. I mean, there's one card, but you're gonna talk about it here in a minute. So
yeah, I got two more Holio specials. I love Dizo's Office.
Yep, I'm right there with you.
It's such a good market card. It's just if you got to have like a removal in your market anyway, you might as well have a removal that can also win you the game, right? It gives its static effect is insanely powerful. It's a sight. So Dizo's Office is 7 double shadow, 4 durability. Your units have lifesteal. So very powerful static effect. Dizo's agenda plays Scheme, then Threaten, and then Cut Ties. So Cut Ties is just kill a unit. Threaten, I think, is give one of your units +2 attack.
Correct.
And then Scheme is draw one of the next 3 cards or something.
Yes.
Bottom the rest?
Yep. Look at the top 3, draw 1, bottom. Yep. You got it.
So all good effects. And then the unit that comes out is a 4/6 unblockable finisher that gives you the option to like also draw more cards if you can sacrifice a guy. So yeah, super sweet. I recommend one of these. I don't think it's a 4 of at all, but this was also legal in an Expedition previously, and I mean it was so good there. I still play it in a lot of my Shadow markets and Throne. So easy recommendation there. And then I also recommend Tazbu the Forbidden. If you don't mind, living on the edge a little bit, this guy is so powerful. Like he can draw you so many cards, but sometimes you might end up killing yourself, kind of thing. So it's like one of those type of cards. But it's 5 and then Quintuple Shadow to play, 6/6 with Deadly and Warp. So it's like in that Siditi cycle, right? I guess the Holio cycle, whatever. When one of your units dies, draw a card and take 1 damage. So that's what you're playing it for, really. Just a crazy Shadow card. If it sticks around, you can just grind people out. Really good with the card I also just mentioned, Dizo's Office. And yeah, I think Tazbu is mostly like a 4 of, right? These warp cards tend to be in heavy decks playing their influence and want to main deck them. So I think it's a safe craft, at least if you like that kind of deck. You guys have anything else to add or subtract?
No, you covered it.
All right. So that's the 5 main colors. Sweet. We're turning through here. So moving on to Factionless, which at this point in Eternal's life definitely is its own thing. Throne has a very playable and competitive Factionless deck for sure. But we're going to start off with Expedition. I think even though it was recently nerfed pretty hard, it's still a safe craft, and it's the Speaking Circle. It's good in Throne as well. It's not a staple there, but it's playable in some decks. It's a sight, 6 cost, Factionless with 3 durability. And at the end of each turn, if the enemy player has a sight, kill it. So that's where it got hit the hardest on the nerf, but that's still a very powerful effect. And then the Queen of Glass's agenda choose between 3 options that cost 3 or less 3 times to set her agenda. So this circle, I mean, it's such a powerful sight. It has a very high ceiling, has a somewhat low floor, but I mean, a lot of times you're playing it with like one thing in mind, like I need to deal 2 damage. You know, at minimum, I need the sight to be able to deal 2 damage, and then it like usually does that, and then some in spades, right? Like, and then the worst ones, they absorb like a full attack from your opponent or whatever, and then you just draw the next speaking circle, which does the thing, right? Like this card's like pretty busted. So very safe craft. And then I think Wasteland Broker is probably a safe craft. Like I don't think he's making any of my decks lately, but I see him making so many other people's decks. He's got to be a safe craft, right? What do you guys think about Wasteland Broker?
Yep, winner for me. You can't go wrong. It's right up there with the Merchant. Sometimes a little bit better, sometimes a little bit worse, but I think this card is fantastic. It's 100% a safe craft.
People make the mistake of jamming it in way too many decks. I will say that, but I do think there's some decks that want this card, and I think it's a safe craft. You agree,
Definitely.
Alex?
I agree for sure.
Okay. And I mean, we all know it's like busted in draft, but that's another story. So for Throne, I guess I would recommend Even-Handed Golem the most if you're into that sort of thing. Like a lot of people are just haters and don't ever want to play this card. Hate to see it. I think it's fine, and I think it's a very safe craft if you like this unit. You know, it leads towards like a grindier playstyle, right? It draws cards and leaves you a body that you can do something with.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a 2-cost golem, 1/1 with Voidbound. Summon if you have no odd cost cards in your deck, draw 2 cards. I mean, and that's the other thing, right? It's a deck building challenge, and I do enjoy a deck building challenge. I'm not a big fan of even-handed golem, but I like brewing the occasional even deck, I guess. I don't know. So I think that's a safe craft. And then I also think Chairman's Contract. This is the first power that we're mentioning. I mean, other than, you know, we kind of did a blanket statement earlier on the crests. But this one is a colorless, factionless power. Comes in not depleted, but it doesn't give you any influence, obviously. And then it says discard the top 2 cards of your deck. So this is like an enabler for any self-mill strategy, like the Vara deck we mentioned earlier. I think if you're into that at all, this is a safe craft. It's a must-have in any deck like that because it's like a free enabler for your deck. And then I also think if you're into the whole factionless thing, and only if you're into the whole factionless thing, like if you're very interested in playing that deck, I think this is a safe craft. Cast Iron Furnace is the card. It's also a power card. And it's the first legendary power that Direwolf has put in the game, and it says deal 1 damage to the enemy player. Then if you have 5 or more factionless cards in your void, play a 5/5 Dragon Simulacre with flying. So that effect is insanely powerful, but it's not it's not trivial to enable, right? So you gotta be trying to play that factionless deck, I think.
Well, I mean, the good thing too is you can only craft one of them, and then you have Petition to essentially tutor it up as well. So there's that.
Yeah, but if you're playing the factionless deck, you're definitely playing 4 of these.
Yeah.
And there's not like I've messed with what you just mentioned there, Jedi, and there's really not that many decks that want to play Petition because like you're playing that crazy influence, and then you also have the ability to play the Furnace. It's kind of like there's a little tension there. Anyway, the Holio card I would recommend for factionless is World Pyre. Right, I love World Pyre, even though I just said the meta has kind of shifted and it's very hard to play in Expedition right now. I still like this card, and I think it's a safe one of craft for sure. If you like deck building, you know, because I think this is a really fun one to brew with. And you know, you can still win games with it. Like I don't think it's unplayable at all. Just you know, you can't really go as all in on it anymore as you could have before with the Silixes and whatnot. Like I think your deck has to function without the World Pyre now. But I saw like a sweet expedition deck, Murder of Crows, posted, for example, in the last week or two, that was like incidentally playing World Pyre, that like kind of how I'm describing that. So I do think it's a safe craft, and this is my Holio pick.
I like it.
All right.
I think, World Pyre definitely fits a need, but once again, factionless cards can kind of go anywhere by nature. So yeah, I like it.
All right, so let's move on to multicolored, and we're gonna go with the dual factions. I think I found at least one card for Expedition and Throne for every dual faction, except maybe one. I don't remember for sure, but we'll start with Praxis. This one. I said none for Expedition, and I just can't say for sure that any of those are safe crafts actually, except maybe Heart of the Vault. I don't know. It was just introduced to the format, and when I wrote this, it was yesterday, but it's been like a week now, and I still can't say for sure. And the rest of the cards are definitely not safe crafts. Any opinions on that?
Expedition. I mean, I like Heart of the Vault, but people are constantly telling me not to play it, so
like,
take it for what it's worth.
At this point, I mean, it's been nerfed a lot, right? And in Expedition, what I really want this to do is deal 3 damage, because like I want it to kill a site. Like the site that it always killed in Throne has 2 durability, right? Which is Garden of Omens. And so like it was always kind of annoying to play against, like when I was playing Garden. And yeah, in Expedition, it doesn't kill sites that people are playing. I mean, it kills Lord Steyre's Tower, but in Expedition, the more popular ones are like Inferno Den now, and Speaking Circle, which is 3 and 4 durability. So I just don't think so. I don't know though. So let's move on to Throne, and I think the only safe craft for Praxis and Throne is East Annex Smuggler. 3 Praxis, 2/3 with charge, Merchant, and then summon, do merchant stuff. Swap a card from your hand with either a fire or time card from your market. Not all the smugglers are safe crafts, right? But I think this Praxis one, like we've seen a resurgence recently in like go wide Praxis style decks, and this is going to make every one of those. And there's some combo decks in Throne that play this smuggler, as well as big Praxis will play it, and like FTJ I've seen play the smuggler as well. So I think it's a safe craft. And then the Holio card for Praxis, I think, is just one of Kairos Grand Champion, like big, stupid, powerful effect, fun combo kill card. It's 9 triple Praxis, 12/12 giant, plus 6 maximum power. When you play another unit, it deals its attack and damage to an enemy. Summon, draw cards equal to the highest attack among your other units. So just some big combo finisher, right? Anything for Praxis, guys?
No, I got it. You're on it, dude. Like your work worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I was pretty thorough. I mean, I did look at every card when I did this. So let's go to Rakano. For Expedition, I think I can recommend Linax Molten Wing as a safe craft. It's a powerful effect. It got nerfed already once, right?
Yep.
So Linax is a 3 mana 3/3 flying Valkyrie. It's 2 fire and a justice influence. When you play a weapon, Linax deals that weapon's cost in damage to an enemy. So doesn't go in every deck, but I think in Expedition, most decks playing fire and justice are playing Linax, and that effect is really powerful. I don't think it's really a Throne card, unfortunately. So if that's going to be a tiebreaker for crafting it, maybe not as safe. But yeah, that's what we got for Expedition and Rakano.
I think it's a really powerful card, and you're perfectly all right not getting your synergies because it's still a 3/3 flyer for 3.
Yeah, sometimes that'll
and
win
if
you
it
the
just and then if it lands, you're just wrecking shop, and that's amazing. So.
And then for Throne, I've got 1 copy of Deep Forged Plate, I think is a safe craft. That's like a powerful market effect. When you can grab it and play it, or grab it and play it the next turn. And a lot of times you grab it with a unit that is fine wearing this thing. It's just a weapon, but it's a very powerful weapon. It's 5 cost, double Rakano, 5/5 endurance and overwhelm. So I mean it's a good finisher, and it's right next to Deforged Plate on a Stick of sorts. In Ikaria the Liberator, I think is a safe craft of up to 4 of. She can also be a market card, but a lot of decks want 4 main. It's a throne staple. Yeah, go for it, Jedi.
There's the hidden text as well that
yes,
typically an Ikaria puts an Ikaria on top of your deck with Warcry.
Yeah, if it's your opponent playing it, I think it's definitely there. But it even does it for me sometimes. I don't know. I feel like it's like Ikaria's got a magnet built in for other Ikarias. Yeah, so she's a 7 cost triple Rakano 5/5 Aegis Flying Endurance Charge Warcry 5 Rebel Valkyrie.
Yeah.
Yes. So she's a finisher. The embodiment of a finisher. And then the Holio card, I like Marley, mostly for Expedition, but makes the occasional throne market as well. Like there's a couple Expedition decks that I actually main deck for Marley's, but mostly she's a market card. And because of my last Holio card, or not the last one, but the one before that, World Pyre, she makes most of my World Pyre markets. Sweet card to play with World Pyre. So yeah, Marley is a 4 cost, 4 fire and 2 justice to play 4/4 gunslinger. With Surge, she gets +2/+1 and overwhelm this turn. And summon, you may silence an enemy unit or kill an enemy relic. So both powerful summon and a good finisher. Hard to cast though. But that's my Holio card.
She goes great with Ikaria as well.
Yeah, in the market in that deck, maybe like as your interaction for relics and a silence effect. Yeah. Maybe main deck, but I don't know. I mean, I guess there was definitely a time where she was main decked in, during that Rakano Surge time before that deck got nerfed like crazy. But yeah, I definitely think one Marley is a safe craft, up to 4, but definitely 1. So let's move on to Skycrag. For Expedition, I think Kenna Uncontained is the safest craft there. She's a 4 cost, 2 fire, and 4 primal, 4/5 Dragon Shaman unit with flying and killer. And ultimate, when you have hit the enemy player with units 5 times, draw a spell from your void. So, I mean, obviously you got to be heavy into Skycrag to play her, but I mean, she is just super powerful. Does something right when you play her, and can continue generating value with that ultimate while possibly attacking, and winning the game maybe. So easy recommendation there. And then for Throne, I think Champion of Fury is a safe craft. And that's because it makes both that Throne Yetis deck we talked about earlier, as well as just Skycrag aggro in general. And I've actually had this in Skycrag mid-range decks in Throne before and had it overperform. So I think it's definitely a safe craft. It's a 2 cost Skycrag 2/1 Yeti Warrior. And it has the text, when you have 2 fire influence, it gets +1 attack and charge. And when you have 2 primal influence, it gets +1 attack and overwhelm. So it ends up being a 4/1 charge overwhelm unit for 2. So very powerful 2-drop. And then
super aggressive.
Yeah, it's a very aggressive card, but like I said, like it can also, make a mid-range deck. It's just a solid card. And it's good against, because of the charge, right? It's good against sites, and that's one of the reasons it kind of works like that. I would also recommend another site, and this is, I think, the first promo I'm recommending. Garden of Omens. This has been one of my favorite cards in the game for a long time. It's just so good. It enables like whole decks to exist. It's 5 cost, 2 double Skycrag, 2 durability. It says your spells cost 1 less, so it has a very powerful static effect. And then Tamaris's Agenda, Meltdown, Ice Bolt and Resurface, and then so that's Kilo attachment. Ice Bolt is deal 7 damage, and then to a unit, and then that unit's owner draws a sigil from their deck. And then Resurface is like a powerful tutor effect that puts a spell of your choice on top of your deck. So yeah, very safe craft. And like these promos are like a quarter of the cost of a rare or something. I can't remember for sure, but they're definitely cheaper than a rare to craft. So it makes
I think it's like 2/3. I think it's like 2/3. I think a rare's 800 and they're like 600, or they're 600, 400.
That sounds right. Yeah, I think you got it. But yeah,
I think it's 8 and 6.
You know, anytime you hear of a promo, try and get those wins of the day and just get these for free at that time, because some of these end up being so good like later on.
Yeah, and this card very much steamrolls. That like spell reduction is so good.
Yeah, and this was like getting out of hand when Silixes were like at their prime a few months ago or whatever. But you know, so now it's a little harder to make Silixes in like a tri-faction deck, for example, because like Lights Out Ace's Worlds winning deck was playing these, right? And there was turns where Ace was like playing like 6 or 8 treasures, it seemed like, you know, because they're just free.
Yeah.
And he was like just generating like mad. Anyway, the card's sick. Easy recommendation, and it's also my Holio card. Like already said, Garden of Omens. I can't recommend that card enough. So let's move on to Stone Scar. For Expedition, I just crafted a full playset of these myself. I think I had 0 or 1, and yeah, this is a very powerful card in Expedition right now. Scrap Tank. It's a 5-cost single Stone Scar 3/3 Grenadin with a powerful summon effect in play 2 1/1 Grenadin. When one of your other units dies, Scrap Tank gets +2/+2. So that effect can make combat a nightmare for your opponents, right? There's so many ways to kill off one of your own 1/1s between sack effects, direct damage, etc. So this is a sneaky good card. We saw the Boxer kicking some butt with it in Tuesday Night Eternal recently. Yeah, I think it's a safe craft. And like, for me to recommend, this is a legendary. I haven't been mentioning whether they're rares or legendaries really. Like, I think when I recommended legendaries, I made extra sure they were safe, right? Like I said, I just crafted the full place of these myself. So, and then I think for Throne, I would recommend Champion of Chaos. It's been one of the best cards in that Stone Scar deck for so long. Like, it just kills people. It's a 3-cost single Stone Scar 3/3 Gunslinger Rogue. That's similar to the champion I mentioned earlier, where if you have triple fire on this one, it gets +1/+1 in Overwhelm, and triple shadow on this one, it gets +1/+1 in Deadly. And so, I mean, anyone that plays Eternal and has done the puzzles knows that if this is blocked by a single unit, regardless of how big it is, like that is, getting 4 damage through, right? Because of the way Deadly and Overwhelm works. This is such a good aggressive card. Format staple for sure. Easy recommendation. And then I said for the Holio card, Shrine to Carvet. I think either 1 or 4 of. Sometimes it's a market card, but I think this is such a powerful card. If you're into sacrifice style decks at all, you'll want to have at least one of these in your market. And it's a relic. Is this the first relic I've recommended? Maybe.
No, because you had the Shiner Godov.
Yes, thank you. So 2 Holio relics, but yeah, relics not very safe crafts, I guess. This one's very powerful though. It's 3 single Stone Scar. Your units have +2 attack, charge, and lifesteal if you have sacrificed a unit this turn. And as we all know, if you play with this card, it doesn't care if it comes into play after you do the sacrificing or anything. Yeah, it's a very powerful effect. And it stacks, so that's why it's also like you can play 4 main deck and it's not just a market card.
Mm-hmm.
Anything to add for Stone Scar?
Oh, I love Scrap Tank and Chaos Shrine. I love-hate relationship.
That's why it's the Holio card.
But I mean, it is pretty safe if you like sack effects. I feel like it's a very safe craft if you like sacrifice style decks. Personally,
so let's move on to Combre. Expedition. I think Reality Warden is a safe craft. It's a legendary, and I don't know, like, it's not a throne card, so that kind of like made it borderline. But I think it's close enough that I can say it's safe. It's 5 cost Sentinel, double Combre, 7/7 with Overwhelm, and it says cards can't leave the enemy void. So it's like a solid unit that's good against the removal, most of the removal in the format, because it's dual faction and, you know, can't die to smite without a little work as well. And then that random hate text on it is very relevant also. So I think this is a safe craft for Expedition. It makes the occasional throne like market maybe, but it's basically an Expedition card. And then this one also just came out in the format with the draft changes the other day. So I'm not sure yet, but I think possibly Knight Chancellor Seraph can be a safe craft. You'll have to, you know, give me your opinion on this one for sure, Jedi and Alex. But it's 3 cost, single Combre, 3/4 soldier with Overwhelm. Pay 7 and exhaust Seraph to play a random time or justice unit and double its attack and health. What do you think about that one?
yeah, I mean, it's a 3/4 Overwhelm for 3, so it's greatly statted on rate. I think it's great. If you like Combre, you like big stuff, I think it's a good call. And then it gives you, it's cool because you like playing it early, and then it gives you late game application with that making a unit. It is random, so you know, you could be like me and pull the stupid excavator guy, the 0/1, and it's a 0/2, and you don't have any sentinels in your deck. But
so
I
does
mean,
this go into like that TJS deck? Probably.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
I know I've seen people playing a new style like big Combre. You know, like people were trying to kind of play big Combre decks before, but I think maybe this is what pushed that deck into the higher tiers.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I want to say that a tentative safecraft on this, but you know, fresh in the format, asterisk, craft at your own peril there, I guess. But I think it's safe. All right. So, and then for Throne, I'm gonna say Diana Faith Shield, and like she's also a great expedition card, you know, so that makes her extra safe, I think. But I think Diana has made plenty of Throne decks of late. So I think she's a safe craft. It's a 4 cost, 2 time and 4 justice mage with flying. Summon, draw a card, you gain 2 life and 2 armor. Ultimate, pay 12 to give Diana plus attack and health equal to your total influence. So kind of a good mid-game value card and a finisher in one. Just hard to cast, so it doesn't make every deck or anything that's playing Combre necessarily. But
I think her being hard to cast is the worst part about her. But she's evasive. She's good early. You know, she's good against aggro because she gives you a little bit of armor. She blocks well. She replaces herself by drawing a card right off the bat, so you don't even mind playing her early. And then late game, she does all that. Plus, she could be a potential win con. So I think she is fantastic. The worst part about her is just her influence.
Sweet. So you agree on her. And then I also would recommend the Combre Smuggler, Pearl Abbey Smuggler, which 3 cost, all smugglers and merchants 3 cost, right? This one's the Combre one. It's a 2/1. And when you play a spell, Pearl Abbey Smuggler, that one's a tongue twister, gets +1/+1, and then summon, do market stuff. So this one's like, I think one of the most played smugglers because it like has that Alessi feel to it where it can actually kill people itself. So very much a safe craft smuggler. And then a third one I think is at least a one of Sword of Unity. It's usually a market card, but it's a very powerful weapon. It's 4 cost, double Combre, 2/2 lifesteal overwhelm weapon with spellcraft to play stand together, which gives all of your units +1/+1 in Aegis. So, I mean, insanely powerful effect. Great market card. And then,
That's
I'm
one of
sorry,
my
that was
favorite
actually my
weapons.
Folio card. My bad. But yeah, that's only in Throne right now. What were you saying there? Sorry.
Just that's one of my favorite weapons.
So
It
Alex
definitely can change the
agrees.
game. It could definitely change the game around out of nowhere. It could break a board state. It could bring you back in. Sometimes any aggro deck typically can't even beat it. If you know, yeah, it's great.
Cool. So let's go to Elysian. Expedition, like Crystalline Chalice was just put in the format. So if you like having fun, I can recommend that one as a safe craft. I don't know that it's any good. But no, it's really just Wump and Mizo. Like Wump and Mizo. For Throne, Wump and Mizo. Holio card, Wump and Mizo. It's just Wump and Mizo. That's the only good Elysian card, period, in the whole game. So it's 2 cost, single time, triple primal, 2/2 Yeti Dinosaur, and your Yeti are invulnerable to snowballs. At the start of each player's turn, they play a snowball. Then, if there are 4 or more in voids, transform Wump and Mizo into a 6/6 party pair. Yeah, this card is really, really good. In both Throne and Expedition, it's legal in both. I could not say that a safer craft exists in the game, especially when you compare it to the other cards Elysian has to offer. I mean, do you see any other in either format to suggest there that are not campaign cards?
Nope.
Nope. Yep.
Not Elysian. Yeah, I
Wump
think it's a little
Mizo.
bit harder. Yeah, I think it's a little bit harder with two double faction.
Yeah. I mean, tell that to Combre, right? No. So, let's move on here to Xenon. Yeah, tell it to Xenon. Xenon's got some good ones too. I think for Expedition, I would say both Katra, the first seal, and Twin Spitling are safe crafts. So, Twin Spitling is a 4-cost double shadow 1/1 wisp with deadly and unblockable, and then summon, play a timekeeper with attack and health equal to your time influence. And that's why it's a Xenon card. Like, you're never playing this in a shadow only deck, only Xenon. And yeah, it's very powerful. It's one of the best 4-drops in Xenon, one of the only good ones, right? Like, I think I can recommend this as a safe craft for sure.
Yeah.
And then,
It is a little particular because you want to be exactly seen in, but like once again, I mean that's why you're picking them in double faction. So yeah,
exactly.
I think it's solid.
And then we've got Katra, the first seal, and she's also good in Throne, so easier to recommend, but harder to cast even and be good. But 4-cost, 2-time 4 shadow, 5/3 spells can't leave the enemy void. Surge +1/+1, and you gain 1. And you gain 1 health. Summon, play a power card from your void depleted for each of your units. So like can trigger surge off the summon. So it's like a super powerful effect if you've managed to get some power cards in your void. And like I said, also good in Throne, good in Throne Reanimator, super powerful card. And then the Throne cards I would recommend are Banish, which honestly I didn't even remember or realize was a rare. I think that's the only removal I've recommended, except for like Harshul, right? But this is a spot removal.
Yep, pretty much.
It's such good spot removal. It goes on the list. It's a 3-cost fast spell, single Xenon, kill an enemy unit or relic with cost 5 or less. And like, so that's going to kill the vast majority of cards that people are playing in the game of Eternal. Like, some decks go past 5, but that's not your average deck or your average game. Like even decks that do play 6-drops don't always play 6-drops in an average game. So I mean, this is like extremely good, efficient removal, and the fact that it hits relics is insanely powerful. And then I also would recommend the Xenon Smuggler, the Ebon Dune Smuggler, and it's a ambush one, and it's a 2/2, and it does smuggler stuff. So, but that one has it's consistently been played. It's good in both Xenon mid-range and the Throne Reanimator deck has shifted from Feln to Xenon, so this one is pretty important now. And then the Holio card I think is Xenon Temple. I like this card a lot. Makes possibly both those decks I just mentioned again, like Xenon midrange and Reanimator, as a one of in the market. Although in midrange you can definitely main deck it as well. But it's a 5 cost site, double Xenon, 3 durability. When an enemy unit dies, steal it and put it into your void. World Joiners Agenda, Xenon Initiation, Scare, and Xenon
Augury.
Augury, right?
Hey.
I was just Jediing that one for a moment. And then we've got so Xenon Initiation is give +1/+1 on killer, and trigger Nightfall. And then Scare is swap attack and health of a unit, and Xenon Augury is look at the top 3, draw a card, gain a life or something along those lines.
Gain 3, yeah.
Gain 3. Okay. So yeah, and I mean just that static text when an enemy unit dies, steal it. Like that's insanely powerful. So it's a good value card that can actually win the game. It's like the unit it spits out is a World Joiner, which is a finisher. If that actually sticks around, but just the value you get from the site is usually enough. So that's the Holio card. Easy recommendation there.
Yep. Get behind that.
Moving right along to Huru. This one I couldn't find one for Expedition until I remembered that this was a promo. Janitor David. So we've got good old Huru Soldier staple card. Is this the second most recent promo, I guess, at this point, for the game? It's a 2 cost 4/4, which is insane. Single Huru. Cleric unit. So summon, draw a soldier or card with Amplify from the top 4 cards of your deck, then bottom the rest. Entomb. The enemy player plays 2 2/1 soldiers, then you stun them. So, that's kind of downside, but not really. Like, this is just mandatory in Soldiers and Expedition. This card is so good. I mean, it's a 4/4 for 2. That's insane. And it draws you a card when you play it? What? Die roll, please. Like, this was borderline as broken as Friends in Low Places was. Almost.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, okay, that's a whole nother level, I guess, but this kind of reminds me of that, right? Like, this card's kind of disgustingly good. And then we've got, for Throne, just the Rhyme Conclave Smuggler. So just the Huru Smuggler. And that's a 3 cost 3/2. And Onslaught, you and Rhymeclave Smuggler both get an Aegis. So that's a powerful Smuggler effect, and it's reasonably statted. So this one sees a lot of play. It's a card in that deck I mentioned at the beginning of the breakdown, the Huru Kira deck. And then like the next closest for Throne is Anaya Arctic Sheriff, which I like a lot, but I'm not going to say it's a safe craft. It's definitely fallen by the wayside. So that's all we've got for Huru. Except I've got my Holio recommendation here, which is a single copy of 8 of the Huru. It's a World Pyre card. I love this as an effect.
World Pyre or Diogo Malaga.
Yeah, I was just about to mention the Diogo combo deck, which I haven't seen a lot recently, but I mean that's kind of always around-ish. Popularized by Kamado. Posted on Warcry. I think a deck named Diogo have AIDS at one point, like classic Eternal combo deck. But yeah, like this is a powerful finisher in those types of decks. I mean, basically a combo finisher. And this was legal in Expedition in the last one, so saw a ton of play then. But I think it's still one of always going to be playable in Throne since that combo exists.
Mm-hmm.
And this, I didn't mention what it does. It's a 12 cost. Whoa, double Huru. Stun each enemy unit. Play 2 4/4 owls with flying. Draw 4 cards and gain 4 armor spell. So insanely powerful finishing effect. Moving
Does
right
all
along.
the things.
Yeah, right. All of my favorite Holio things.
All right, I am with you on this entire section.
Yeah, Argenport.
Yep.
Great Argenport cards. I guess Jedi is an Argenport aficionado. For Expedition, this was a recently nerfed card, and I think it's still very much a safe craft. The nerf did almost nothing to affect it. I feel like I think what's really affected Roll more than anything is just Expedition rotating in general and Petition not being in the format. So, but I still think it's a very safe craft, extremely powerful effect. Mid range and control decks alike. Any deck playing Argenport colors will be playing this card. If it's not an aggressive deck. So Roland, Iron Tyrant, 4 cost, 4 justice, double shadow, 1/5 with decay and endurance, nightmare unit. When an enemy unit dies, play a 1/1 silver blade reaper with flying and deadly. Then Roland gets +1/+1. So insane value card. Gets bigger, creates units, like just does it all. And then another card that just entered the Expedition format the other day with those other cards is Inquisitor Mocto. And this one I'm like slightly less sure about than Seraph, but I'm still pretty sure that it's a safe craft. The reason I also think it's a little safer is Mocto at least sees more play in Throne than Seraph ever has, so that makes it a little safer in my mind. What do you guys think?
I like Mocto. Yeah, I like Mocto.
Safe
I think you do some pretty good things. You find him. He's good in mid-range decks. He's a good topper for more aggressive decks.
The only
revenge
reason
sometimes.
I'm a little hesitant is like so many decks are like soldiers and like even mid-range decks and whatnot, and they're playing Sharp Tactician, which is just really hoses Mocto in a way, right? So I'm hesitant to say it's just going to be like amazing or anything in Expedition, but I'm thinking it's probably going to be good, right?
I think so.
So cool. So let's move on to Throne. I think just the Hidden Roads Smuggler, the only Argenport card I can straight up recommend for Throne, as a safe craft. Lifesteal Smuggler 2/2 are the stats. This one got nerfed at one point for sure. And this one's, I think it's the lifesteal is sweet on it, and the colors. I mean, like the fact that you can get both, Justice and Shadow cards from your market is why people play this card. In Argenport, like mid range mostly.
Mm-hmm.
It's also a staple in like the old FJS deck, which I think that kind of strategy is always around ish. But at the very least, I think Argenport mid range is definitely a deck. So this is definitely a safe craft. And then the Holio card is another site. I really like Regent's Tomb as a one of market card in a lot of decks. In Throne, I think this is a great site. It's like it does a lot of things you want to do on turn 4. Like it's such a good turn 3 Smuggler into turn 4 Regent's Tomb play in a lot of games. So I definitely recommend this one as a safe one of craft. It's 4 cost, single Argenport, 2 durability site. Empower your units, get +1 this turn. Elias's Agenda, Lingering Influence, Sabotage, and Swear Vengeance. Lingering Influence is draw a Justice Sigil and Scout. Sabotage is discard a spell or attachment from the enemy player's hand, I believe, or is that the 3 cost one?
No, Sabotage is attachment or yeah.
Cool. And then Swear Vengeance, give one of your units revenge. And then Elias is the unit that comes out, which Elias is just beefy finisher Valkyrie, like 8/4 revenge, right? Revenge flying.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, this card kind of
is so good. Lifesteal.
Yeah, great mid-range kind of control-y mid-range value card that spits out a finisher. So, and if they deal with it once, he has revenge. moving right along to Feln. Expedition, I think none. I don't think there's really a safe one. Like, unless you're just really into this whole Align the Tesseract strategy, which, like, it's a supported archetype now, but I don't know that it's like a tier 1 or even tier 2 deck. Like, I see good players playing it. I see them playing at the top of the ladder, so, like, maybe? I don't know. I just can't in good conscience recommend this as a safe craft since it's a legendary and whatnot, and it's like such a specific card. Unless you guys think otherwise.
No, I don't like it. I think it's way too niche. Way too niche.
So no safe crafts for Feln and Expedition right now. For Throne, I think Blight Pass Smuggler definitely gets the nod there. It's a 1/4 Berserk Smuggler in Feln colors, and just like it's one of the more reasonable units as far as the smugglers go. So I think that's why it gets played more than anything in those Feln decks, and just the flexibility of getting both the primal and the shadow. And I think Felrock the Outcast is a safe craft for Throne. It only goes in certain decks, but I don't know. It's a very Feln card, and it goes in most good Feln decks in Throne, including like, you know, Feln Reanimator and like Feln midrange that's doing a lot of looting. So I don't know. I think it's a safe craft. Do you agree with that?
Well, yeah. I mean, you got sure.
Safe with those caveats.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. And then, you know, honorable mention I think is Champion of Cunning.
See, that's the one I was looking at, but since you have it, you know, that's the one I would be more inclined. But yeah, go ahead.
It's just like, I don't know. It doesn't, you know, it doesn't go in Reanimator, and it's like Feln midrange is not really a deck right now. Like, it doesn't go in like the at any cost deck. When this was an Expedition, it was, you know, very safe to craft for that, but because it's like a rare, if you want to play Feln, I think you're going to play Champions of Cunning, but I don't know. Honorable mention at least. And then the Holio card, I'm going to say Rindra Infiltrator. Legal in Expedition right now. It's a sweet card. It pops off with at any cost. And it's just a fun effect. The amount of stats that it gives with its line of text here, I'll read it. It's 4 cost, double primal, quadruple shadow, 2/3, so seemingly understated, elf unseen unit, except it gets +4/+4 and lifesteal if you have played a spell this turn. So really easy to enable, just any spell. And then summon, the enemy player discards a card of their choice from their hand. So, you know, theoretically, value when you play it, you know, make some discard. And then, yeah, I think it's just a very powerful unit. So, like, most of the time when it's in combat, it'll be a, 6/7 lifesteal? So that's pretty legit for 4. But, you know, it's like a tricky card. It's a Holio card, whatever. That's my recommendation there. Anything else for Feln, gentlemen?
Solid. You did your homework, man. You did a good job on this.
Thank you. So that rounds out.
Really good.
I appreciate you guys. So that concludes all the dual factions. So with Trifaction, it's going to be short and sweet. I don't have a list of, you know, all the Trifactions or anything crazy like that, because there's just not that many good Trifaction cards in the game. I think for Expedition, I think 3 of the 5 From cards can be lumped in here. I think From Below, From Beyond, and From Anguish are safe crafts. At least as a 1 of, some as a 4 of. I'll go into the specifics here. From Below is the one that makes a Plasma Primordial. It's 1 and a time on the front side, fast spell, kill an enemy relic. So all 3 of these are these transmute cards, and they're all kind of like 1 color on the front, and then if you have triple, you know, triple double triple influence on the backside, it transmutes into a powerful unit. And so right now in Expedition, I think this card is playable on both sides. And so I think that makes it a safe craft as a 4 of for sure.
That's like the craftable found card, kind of.
Yeah, but I think that's what also makes it a trifaction is like, I'm playing some Aurelian decks right now that they've mixed with the format, where I'm playing both sides of this card for sure. And then there's like just also some decks that were playing it as a market relic interaction, but I think that's now a campaign card for the most part. And then there's some Feln decks that are just playing it for the unit period. So that definitely makes the list. And then the next one is From Beyond, which is the one that makes Maiev one of Jedi's favorite cards, I think.
Value, so much value.
Yeah, so I think that's mostly at this point played for the unit. But if you're playing all 3 factions again, I think you might do it for both the front and the back side here. But the front side is less important now that it exploits in the format, right? But I think this one's a decent trifaction still, as a safe craft. So choose one and a shadow spell for the front side. Choose a unit or spell with cost 3 or less from the enemy player's hand, and they discard it. And then the transmute side is Combre, triple Combre, and it's a 4/5 Maiev, Walker of Aeons, and yeah, her summon is like shuffle all of your units and weapons back into your deck and buff them, and then static effect, right? When you play a unit on any turn, draw a card. So she works great with ambush units like Desert Alchemist. Yeah, so I think Maiev has seen plenty of play, and it's easy recommendation there. And then this last one, it's in the same cycle, so I'm lumping it in here, but I think this one's mostly just a one of market card from Anguish. It's the Justice on the front, single Justice.
Mm-hmm.
Or one in a Justice, I mean. And then the backside is Burning Cruelty, the Stone Scar unit, which I've basically never seen that played, so I don't even think I'll really...
It's pretty strong. It still draws you an extra card every turn.
It's strong, but I just haven't seen any deck that really makes use of that. Have you?
I think it would go more in like an ambition mid-range, the more go long attrition decks.
Right. So I mean, maybe there's a 3-faction deck that plays all 3 sides of this as well. So yeah, I think all 3 of these are safe crafts. And then the other 2 in that cycle, not so much, right?
Yeah, I agree. They're very limited.
Cool. So let's move on to Throne. And so that was it for 3-faction and expedition. For Throne, I said the chance cycle is all safe crafts if you're playing any 3-faction deck that's like playing sigils, right? In those, the chants are basically tri-faction seek powers that also have a decimate effect, where if you have 2 of each of the 3 influence that it can get, or the sigils that it can get, then you can invoke those 3 colors, which we all know invoke is an extremely powerful ability. So these are like seek powers on steroids. So it's just a matter of, are you wanting to play those tri-factions or not? And in that case, is it a petition deck or is it not, right?
Yeah, chants are great.
So the chants are safe crafts, not to be confused with the cargos, which I do not recommend, which are like on the surface appear very similar, but instead of invoke, they're transmute, and the random cards you get off of those are nowhere near the quality of invokes. So I don't know. I don't think anyone plays these anymore. You just have better options for fixing, right? Like, and the fact that these, like, the chants never stop giving you a sigil. These transmute and stop giving you sigils after 5 power or whatever. Or no, not even after 5 power, after that amount of influence. So, like, if you're playing them for the seek power aspect, like, you might even hose yourself there. Like, these are just not great. So don't get them twisted.
Yeah, very solid distinction. I like that.
All right, and then I think also I don't know if I had to pick more or whatever, but like I think these 2 are also safe as one-ofs. I'm gonna say Zolta Arcanum is a safe craft as a market card. If you're interested in this, like kind of mid-range FTJ strategy, It's a big old site, 7 cost, 4 durability. When you attack with 1 or more units, play a random power card from your deck. And Bren's Agenda, Zolta Convoy, Harmony of Flame, and Vital Arcana. Convoy is play 2 2/2s with Endurance and Aegis. Harmony of Flame is get power equal to your number of units or something weird.
Yeah, equal to your units, you
right?
get power that turn.
And then Vital Arcana is draw 2 and gain 2 life, something like that.
Yes, draw 2 cards, gain 2 life. Yep,
So,
exactly. You got it.
I'm doing all this from memory, by the way, this entire thing. So I'm doing my best. So I think that's a safe craft as a one of for Throne multicolor. And then I also think Zalchi, Herald of War, it's a safe craft as a one of. Like, I mean, no one's really playing FTP now, but I think they could if they really wanted to.
I feel like you're pushing it, but
yeah, I am. I mean, I was reaching a little bit, right? Because somehow there's just not really anything else to recommend. So
it's a good card. It's a good card for sure. And it goes with that copy of Vengeful Flight you were talking about before. So
yeah,
get behind that.
I crafted one. It's a Holio card. Whatever. I already mentioned those two are actually sneaky Holio cards. Whatever. So that's it. Safe crafts concluded.
Nice. Well done, man. Good job. Of course, links will be down below for the Discord if you guys want to further pick Johnholio's brain about what we got going on here and stuff like that. I think you did a great job, man. Super well done, bro.
Slayed it, buddy.
Thanks, guys. Much appreciated. It's not something I really think about much as a drafter, right? We mentioned like us drafters like are never really hurting in the shiftstone department. So I don't know. I thought it was kind of fun. It was a fun exercise to like go in and do, and I actually talked with some of our teammates about this, and we actually had some fun, just messing around with this list. So yeah, good idea for a show, I think.
All right, so with that, this is going to take us into our constructed corner where once again we're going to be showboating a bunch of John stuff, and we have Beacon of Wack. John, go ahead, John. Just have at it, man. It's a Beacon, a meme deck, but it turns out that it's got some good play to it. John's really good about taking memes to the next level. Focuses on Beacon of the Reach, which is a 5-color shenanigans deck. And it also showcases a couple of the new cards in the form of Volk and House of Alliance. So without further ado, John, take it away, man.
Great segue. So this was not my idea. This was our teammate Cal Shadowstep just poking us and was like, hey, I want to play a deck with these cards. And so it was a deck building challenge of sorts. The cards included Beacon of the Reach, Lethrai Lobotomy, Waystone Gate, and I think he also had man, what's the 2/1 that sacks a relic? I'm sorry, man. It's getting late. My brain's fried.
Consuming Greed.
Thank you. So I think that was in the initial pitch, and I think I ended up cutting the greed for the final version of the deck. I'm sorry, Cal. But it didn't quite make the cut because I actually wanted to win, and that was just too much. So without further ado, I guess I'll just get into it here. So the basics of the deck, it's a 5-color pile. And we're playing the new power House Alliance to help facilitate that. Excuse me. And we're playing a relic tutor package. So at its heart, it's a Lethrai Courtier display of knowledge deck where we want to tutor up certain relics at certain times and generate just value in the early game, and just kind of dirtle to where we end up in a position where we're going to be able to finish the game no matter what. And so we have a lot of cards to facilitate the game plan here, including let's see here. So we've got
Hyphos Reach Captain is pretty solid.
Yeah, like Hyphos is in the deck as just one of the few units, and it's like, it's a great late game control card. Hyphos has amplify 2 stun a unit, or play a 2/2 weapon on Hyphos, or draw a random sigil from your deck. So that can help you. I mean, it's a role player in the deck, right? It's a early game, helps you fix. That's the thing you least want to do with it. Mostly you'll use it to stun off a bunch of things and buy you some time in the mid game. And then occasionally it can be a finisher. We've got 4 of Lethrai Lobotomies here, which is sacrifice a relic to kill an enemy unit. And so we've got a bunch of junk relics like Amber Locks in the deck, which just combo out with Lethrai Courtier, obviously, which we talked about on the show last week a lot, as one of my pet cards. And so we just have like all these relics we don't mind sacrificing. Like I just mentioned, Amber Lock. We specifically want to sacrifice Waystone Gates, which is 4 of in the deck. So a lot of times I will play a Waystone Gate, get a sigil or 2, and then sacrifice it with Lobotomy or Volk, which is also a 4 of in the deck. Volk is one of the new tricolor campaign cards along with Hyphos. We're playing both of the most busted ones from the set, and they both shine in this deck. Honestly, it's insane. Volk is a 3-cost 5/3 with endurance and overwhelm, so the stats are crazy. And then Entomb, play a relic, play Volk's Heart. So this card is like not only just a great way to establish a board presence, but it just synergizes with the deck like crazy. Volk's Heart being a relic when it is played will make Lethrai Courtier pop off. And then it also has text that says sacrifice Volk's Heart plus another relic. So this is another way to sacrifice relics to like cheat out your giant from Waystone Gate, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of synergy there. And then we're also running 3 From Belows, which, because we're playing 5 colors, this is, like I mentioned, just a few minutes ago, this is a deck where we're playing both sides of From Below. Early game, there's relics in the format that we want to answer on turns 2, 3, 4, etc. And then later in the game, it transmutes into an extremely powerful unit that you love to play. And you don't often attack with it, but the unit just generates these 3/1 killers every turn. And when the opponent does attempt to deal with it or deal with anything else on your board, it makes them discard every copy of that spell from their deck, which is insane. So, I mean, it's just a great card in the deck. We're also grudgingly playing 4 copies of Trailmaker to help both ramp and more than ramp fix our influence. Which Waystone Gate, I already mentioned, is in the deck. That's another kind of like, it's a role player, and we're using all parts of the Buffalo again, right? Like, it's actually a mana fixer for us, as well as just a finisher and a relic combo piece. And then we have 2 1-ofs in the deck that are fetchable with Display of Knowledge as just 1 of relics. We've got Massive Greatsword and Quicksilver Mirror, which are, you only ever want to draw 1 mirror, and only at certain times and in certain matchups. So obviously we'll have 1 of there. And then Greatsword, like in some decks could be a 4 of, but I mean, we can tutor it, so whatever. It's a 1 of. Usually we just control the board and use it as a finisher sometimes, or, begrudgingly as like, removal on something huge that we're not able to hit with other things. We're also running a lot of displays in this deck because displays are awesome, and we're playing all 5 colors of the rainbow. So we got a full playset of Displays of Knowledge, which is the one that lets us tutor relics. But we actually use all 3 modes on this. Put an attacking unit on the bottom of the deck is great in certain scenarios, as well as giving one of your units +2 in quick draw. When you're playing Volks and 8/8s and things like that want to be attacking. That +2 in quick draw is really good on high attack units. So we do actually play all 3 parts on this display. I'm also running 2 of Displays of Ambition, which is mostly for the removal, but sometimes we use all 3 parts on this one as well. Like sometimes you're wide and you use the your units all get +1 in overwhelm. You know, when you're playing 8/8s with no evasion, that's a handy ability sometimes. And then you know, occasionally we'll use it to get 2 units back from the void, but that's the least used, since Volt can already come back himself. But you know, it's nice to have it as an option. And then we're also playing two copies of Display of Menace, which is the one that deals 1 to each enemy or kills an enemy relic and gives relics in the enemy void bound, or sacrifices a unit to draw 2 of the top 4 cards of your deck and bottom the rest. Again, we use all 3 modes on this, but yeah, it's like the deal 1 is good against certain meta decks that are playing X1s. And then yeah, obviously kill an enemy relic is really good. So we have 5 main deck ways to kill relics in this deck, and I've found that to be very handy in the meta. So yeah, like I've taken this deck out on ladder and I've killed people with it. Like, it's not unplayable. It's not a, you know, it's a meme deck, quote unquote, but I mean, it's very playable. You can actually do things with it. You know, you can have fun while winning games. I mean, yeah, you'll lose occasionally to your own deck. I think any 5-color deck in this format is going to have that issue. You know, they took our petition away, so it is what it is. But yeah, that's the deck. There is a market here, but we have no ways in there. However, we're playing Beacon of the Reach, so it'll often give you ways into a market. So you might as well have one, right? And so with that in mind, the market cards are like all dual faction. So the chances of one of them being fetchable and useful are very high, as well as the Speaking Circle. Like any grafter that the Beacon of Reach gives you can get the Speaking Circle, right? So that's why this market exists and is the cards that it is. If that's, you know, they're all legendaries, right? So if that's like your barrier to crafting the deck, just swap them for literally anything. You know, don't let the market be the reason you can't play the deck. So and I also think like the only other legendary, right, that's not campaign in the deck is Quicksilver Mirror, which is great in the deck, but I don't think it's absolutely necessary. You know, you can swap that for like, I don't know, just about anything. Another great sword, you know, another display that we only have 2 of, a second beacon, sure, whatever. Doesn't really matter too much. So this is a really cheap deck. Shiftstone cost 26,000, and if you literally take away those legendaries that are like all market cards, yeah, it's insanely cheap. So this is like a budget deck, I guess.
Meme budget. Oh yeah.
So this is a sweet one. So I'm happy to share this with the community. I hope you guys have some fun with this one. Don't at me when you just, you know, lose 5 in a row or whatever.
I like the next level play as far as having a market, because you could randomly access it.
I mean, I got a market in most of my games. Like,
yeah,
if you put Beacon out early and often, which if you're playing a Beacon deck, like, let's face it, like that should be your focus. You know,
yeah,
not so much winning, but playing Beacon and then winning.
Fair.
Right? So I mean, dude, it was giving me market access like a lot. So I felt really dumb in the first game when I didn't have a market. Like, let me just tell you.
Sweet. Well, all right then. All right. Well, John, thanks for all the hard work you did in this week's show, man. Really do appreciate it. I'm on par. I'm with you on most of those safe crafts. Some of them I think were a little pushing, but and then it's funny because some of them I agreed with your holiest card. I was like, all right, I can get with that. So
sweet.
But all right, guys, that's going to do it. Once again, feel free to hit us up on the Discord, link in the show notes down below. If you guys want to do a more in-depth chat, we have plenty of great people in there that'll help you pick out safe crafts for the decks that are more specific to what you appreciate playing. But that's going to do it, guys. So until next time, as always, happy gaming.
Good night.
Good luck in your draft queues, everyone.